Hey everybody, welcome back. And this is a follow-up on my how to become a millionaire, literally 100% guarantee, not clickbait. And it's not, barring obviously some sort of massive financial collapse or, Great Depression level, economic event that would just collapse everybody's finances. Anyways, if you haven't watched that video, go watch it. I go through the step-by-step on how to get there, like the actual blueprint. So watch that if you want. But this video is arguably more important. The commenter that I was talking about had the second part, which wasn't just about the Roth IRA. He says, explaining Roth IRA, retirement accounts, and how to maximize credit cards. And then in-depth real estate videos, which is pretty much my whole channel, so you can just go check out my channel. But the credit cards is what I want to focus on. There is no way to maximize credit cards at 18. That is my personal opinion. This is not financial advice, but you're gonna be able to find a lot of YouTubers and people online who tell you what credit cards to get, what points they give you, this, that, and the other thing. I am not one of those people. I think credit cards is the slipperiest slope on the mountain in terms of personal finances, especially at such a young age, and we're gonna break that down. I'm gonna kind of view this from a different perspective, the perspective that I view credit cards. First, we have to understand credit APR, which is the interest rate that these banks are willing to loan you money, essentially, in order to use a credit card. First, we need to fundamentally understand what credit cards are. A lot of people think, I don't know what people think credit cards are, to be honest, but it's not money that you have. It's money that the bank is willing to kind of loan you in a sense. Right? So when you hear a credit card has a $10,000 limit, that is the risk assessment that a credit card has put on you as an individual on how much money they're willing to give you. And this is not free, guys. This money is not free. These are typically at 15% to 30% interest rates. That's absurd. If you watch the previous video that I made, the part 1, we talk about the S&P 500 and how the annual average return is somewhere between 7 and 10% after inflation. So these interest rates are double to triple what the average return is on the S&P 500. In the comment where he says, how do I maximize credit cards? There are almost no investing opportunities. Actually, I'm gonna be bold here and say, there are no investing opportunities out there that you should ever take credit out on your personal credit card in order to go in on an investment. There's no investment that will return at a higher rate than what the interest rates are on the credit card, okay? And if there was such an investment, you would have no problem getting just typical traditional financing on an investment like that from a bank that's not attached to personal credit, that's maybe in the form of like a small business loan or whatever, right? But that's a whole separate topic for a whole nother video. Just to understand the impact of this, I think a lot of people misunderstand that interest rates doesn't mean 20% on top of whatever you owe. So if you owe $10,000, it doesn't mean that you have to pay back $12,000, right? It's much more sinister than that. And banks exploit this, especially on young people. I actually find it quite disgusting that they will go to colleges and, hand out credit cards and say, sign up for our credit cards, you can get all these points and rewards and stuff. So we're gonna break it down real quick. Let's say you're 18 and you start investing $2,000 into an index fund like the S&P 500 or the VOO with a return of 8% a year. That's really good, right? Congratulations, you're doing better than most. After year 1, you'd have around $2,160. So you had a small gain, you gained about 160 bucks, but that's good, because it grows over time. After 5 years, that $2,000 is around $2,933. So you've almost added 50% to, how much money you have in 5 years. That's good. It's good investing habits. Now, this is the second scenario. Let's compare that to carrying $2,000 in credit card debt with a 20% APR. So in the first year, you are going to be spending around $400 in interest alone, 20%. But here's where it gets tricky. it compounds. By the time you hit year 5, if you only pay the minimum monthly payments, you'd have paid over $2,000 in interest, meaning you've effectively paid off more than double what you originally owed. High APR credit cards are one of the most dangerous financial burdens, especially when you're young and may not fully understand how interest compounds. This is really what's called the snowball effect. The longer you carry a balance, the more interest compounds, leading to much larger payments over time. This can become a vicious cycle. This is what the banks and what the credit industry likes to call revolvers. You become a credit revolver, someone who's constantly just paying down their monthly payment and with really no end in sight. This will really, really massively impact you over the long run. I mean, let's say you have a credit card payment of a minimum monthly payment of $800 a month because you ran up your credit card when you were young and dumb and you didn't really think about it. And now you have to pay $800 a month for the next 15 years or the next 20 years until you pay down your credit card. That will impact your ability to buy a house, to buy a car. Buying cars financed is also not a good idea, but that's a whole separate issue. It'll impact everything in your life. Student loans, if you have to take those out, going to college, further education, whatever that means. So until you've built a really strong financial foundation, you really understand budgeting, you understand investing discipline, you understand how the interest on these credit cards work. Until you understand that, really stay away from them. In fact, I would say like a good rule of thumb is just stay away from them until you're probably like 25, right? I personally don't use credit cards. Again, this is my opinion. This is my perspective. It's not financial advice. I don't use credit cards because I know that I might be irresponsible with it. So why use it? For me, the trade-off in points that I get for ordering that one lunch is not worth it for the potential downside. I mean, you can really mess up your finances for a very, very long time if you're irresponsible, even just for a couple months. If you're 18 and you're like, you know what, my friends want to go to Japan, I'm going to put it on the credit card. It's $4,000. I'm going to put it on the credit card. I'm young, experiences mean everything. And, I'll deal with it later when I'm adulting, right? These things will inevitably come back to bite you. And, that's not to say don't have fun, don't spend money, don't go out and stuff like that. Just don't do it on somebody else's dime, because that is what credit cards are. You're using the bank's money in exchange. They give it to you at a very, very high interest rate, and you basically become a slave to the bank if you cannot pay them off in time. This is where opportunity cost comes in too. Instead of investing and watching your money grow, you'll be in a situation where you're constantly paying off high interest debt. Focus on debt first. So if you do have debt, focus on eliminating it as fast as possible. Because the truth of the matter is, if you're looking at a return on investment standpoint, in the S&P 500, you get 7 to 10% or whatever. But if you have credit card debt, your return on investment is actually best paying off the credit card, because these are at such high interest rates that you'll save yourself so much money in the long run by paying it down and paying it off. It'll be a higher return on investment than any investment you could make in the market. So back to our example, if you invest $2,000 at an 8% annual return, after 10 years, you'll have $4,300, right? Assuming you do no further contributions, you've doubled your money by doing nothing. On the other hand, carrying a $2,000 balance on a credit card with 20% APR over the same 10-year period would cost you about $13,000 in principal alone, right? So great, you've made the banks rich. That's all you're doing with credit cards. You're making the banks rich. Conclusion, avoid high interest rate credit cards. Avoid credit cards. You should not be spending money that you do not have. There are debit cards. There's so many other alternatives. Avoiding high interest rate credit cards should be priority numero uno at 18. Even though investing early is crucial, managing debt is far more crucial to building wealth over the long run, and managing your personal finances and becoming responsible and disciplined with investing is the first key to building wealth in the long run. Until you understand these interest rates and how they compound, what exactly you're even going to be using the credit card for, because if it's just making purchases, you can do that with a debit card, unless you don't have the money, in which case you shouldn't be getting a credit card. 3, understanding that there is no investment out there that taking out personal credit is a smart move at such a young age, okay? There are some pretty advanced investing strategies that you will learn as you become more financially responsible and involved in investing. But taking out personal loans on a credit card to do investing is not one of them, I'm telling you. So if you're 18 and thinking about getting a credit card, my advice is don't get it, right? Avoid debt at all costs. And if you're over 18 and you have credit card debt, you should really, obviously it depends on the interest rate that it's at, but if it's anything above 10% interest, you should be putting all of your effort into paying off that card as soon as possible. You will thank yourself in the long run. Anyways, guys, this is a small departure from, the real estate related content that I do, but this guy asked about credit cards and I just really wanted to give my thoughts on it because I think it's very unwise at such a young age to be getting credit cards and getting yourself potentially into lifelong debt. And I know that sounds a little dramatic, but the consequences are that serious. So thank you guys for listening to my thoughts, and I'll see you guys around.